So, okay, brother, let's talk about 10 sneaky habits that are turning you to a fucking retard, making you feel stupid day by the day. Now, these are sneaky habits because they feel harmless at first. They feel like it's not really a big deal, but trust me, over time, it actually grows into a big deal, right? The first one that turns you to a fucking idiot or to what? A retard is mindless scrolling. Now, the worst part is when you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is touch your phone, scroll social media, my guy, you have fucked up your entire day. Because trust me, see what happens. When you wake up in the morning, your dopamine system is like this, right? Your dopamine is like this, at this level. When you scroll social media, at the point of scrolling, it goes up, right? Now, it stays up, then it crashes below your normal level. Now, two things happen is, when your dopamine is high, right, this is what you need to do your work. This is the work level you need. What happens is, when it gets too high, you can't do your work anymore. And when it crashes, guess what happens? You still can't do your work. So trust me, the first thing you do in the morning, if you touch your phone, it makes you a fucking retard. So what you do is avoid scrolling completely when you wake up in the morning. When you wake up in the morning, you should have already had a list of tasks you're supposed to do. Right, it's better for you to even have all of those shitty morning routines than for you to wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is scroll on your phone. Have you even realized that after scrolling on your phone, right, you don't feel like doing anything because that is exactly what happens, right? Wake up in the morning, dopamine is a very nice level, you scroll, it goes up, it stays up for a while. Mind you, you can't work at this level because it's still very, very high. But the moment it is done, guess what happens? It crashes immediately and now you feel like your work feels difficult. See, mindless scrolling is a major problem of Gen Z today, right? It's the reason we have Gen Z burning out on different levels. So, wake up in the morning, first thing you do is attack your tasks for the day. Speaking of attacking your tasks, one thing that you don't know that's completely crushing your life, making your life fucked up is not having a plan. Not having a plan for the day. You see, when you wake up in the morning and you have no plan for the day, all you want to do is wing it. You are living your life on survival mode because trust me, what you're saying is anything that comes, you'll be fine. And that is a way of wrecking your entire life. What you should be doing is know what you're going to do right before you go to bed. Trust me, because it makes you think about, one, it gives you plans, it gives you time to plan out your activities. So what that means is before you go to bed, write out your 3 most important tasks for the next day, right? Before you go to bed. Because trust me, what happens is when you wake up in the morning and you have this normal flat dopamine, your mind is saying to you, okay, what should we do, right? At that moment, if you have had your tasks down, you go straight into work. You know what to do. You tick off your main 3 tasks. Then you can begin to enjoy your day, begin to do things that don't really bring you that much, return. But the first is get the most important things out of the way. For me, it's creating content, right? After creating content, then I can go ahead and do other things, client work, every other thing. But the first thing I do is create content, right? So for this, make sure you have planned out your day the night before. Now, the third thing here is poor sleep. Now, let's talk about sleep because it's a very funny topic, right? I just feel like a lot of people who speak on this topic don't really have major projects happening in their life. Now, there are periods in your life where you have to work intensively. You work intensively, you sacrifice sleep for a period. But guess what? You have to come back to your sleep as soon as possible, or else what you will realize is your focus is out of place. Your ability to focus, your testosterone is out of place. When you sleep is when you build muscles. This idea that your sleep takes you away from work is complete BS, right? Because trust me, if you actually sleep well, right, I know this for a fact. When I'm deprived of sleep, I know that yes, I'm grinding, I'm trying to work on this project and finish as soon as possible, right? But one thing I get to realize is when I'm done with that project, right, I begin to have ideas come to me because when I'm done with the project, my sleep cycle, I try to return my sleep cycle back to what it was. But I come to realize that I begin to get ideas flowing more when I have like enough sleep. The second problem I have about sleep is that people believe you have to sleep 8 hours. I don't buy that idea because sometimes I could sleep 8 hours for a couple of days and still feel shitty. Sleep 6 hours and still feel okay. But the bottom line is you need to have like a structure in your life that plans for your nights, basically, right? It's a typical example I can say is Avoid eating a few hours before you go to bed. Avoid caffeine in the afternoon completely. What else should I say? Avoid using your phones like beside your bed in the first place. Yeah, sometimes I may be guilty of going to bed with using my phone like 30 minutes before, but at least make that effort to avoid your phones before you go to bed. This is why I tell you before you go to bed, right? What you do is I always have books lying around, right? Or I start writing on my book to avoid all of those screen lights. Then go for a walk, have a shower, then go to bed. It's really not that complicated, right? So again, poor sleep to you, your mind, you could be grinding it out. You could be calling yourself Superman, but trust me, you're fucking yourself up. Your muscles aren't really growing, right? If you watch my vlogs, I don't lift as heavy as I used to lift, but at least I still get the same muscle growth. Your testosterone gets fucked up, right? And speaking of this thing, right? Speaking of this whole non-sleep thing, everyone keeps making it look like sleep is a guilty thing. At some point, yes, like I've said, sometimes you may need to deprive yourself sleep, but making it your default state does not make any sense, right? It makes you feel like you are this hardworking dude, but trust me, shit comes to hit you back, and it comes to hit you back real fast. Now, the fourth thing I'd like to talk about is what? Toxic people. Now, why I'm using toxic relationships and friendships. Now, why I put this thing here is because remember, we're speaking of sneaky habits, right? These are things that to you they feel harmless, but over time they creep into your life and they begin to hold your life down, right? So when you have toxic friends, what happens is whenever you have any idea that could change or improve your life, what happens is your toxic friends, your toxic relationship, they'll try to talk you out of it. Because to them, if you achieve that goal, if you achieve that dream, automatically they don't see you the same way again. They see you to be different. And guess what? Them seeing you different to also mean that they themselves could feel like failures. Because this is, let me tell you what I realized when I began to be on my self-improvement journey, right? I began to realize that people would often say, do I think I'm better than them? In my head, I'm saying, no, I am not better than you, but I think you feel less than me. And it now made sense to me that, oh shit. So these guys will do anything to talk me out of my own dreams. Now, for a test, right? For a test for your friendship, for your relationship, look for example, now look for a business idea, right? That somebody else you use to get successful, right? Study the idea that you're going to use to become successful. Now go and tell your friends. I can guarantee you, any friend that tries to talk you out of it, right, is a friend that you should not even keep around you. That friend is a friend who wants to keep you where it is now. To be very, very honest, there's some nuances here, right? Because if the friend is challenging you, it's different from if the friend is doubting you. Those are two separate things. Or if the friend is talking you out of it, that's something that's different. A typical example is, and this is where you can also help a friend. If a friend comes to you with a business idea, instead of talking down the friend, you can be like, that business idea makes sense, but I doubt if you can make it happen, right? Because what you're doing is you're making that guy think. You're making his brain activate and say, you know what? This my friend thinks that I can achieve this thing. You know what? Fuck it. Let me push him. Let me show him that I can get it done. You see, that actually helps and motivates a man who is your friend. I don't know. It works. It's counterintuitive, but it works. But back to the point is, if you have toxic friends and toxic relationships, if you're dating a toxic woman, trust me, it will drain your life. In the next give or take a few months or a few years, you begin to realize these guys barely add shit to your life. It's that they drain your energy. They talk you out of your goals and your dreams, right? And then number 5, which kind of like ties into this sometimes, right? It is 5, I would say, is saying yes. Now, what happens is when you always say yeses, you tell people that you don't respect yourself. If you're always saying yes, it means you don't respect boundaries. If you're always saying yes, it means you lack priorities in your life. So what should you do? Always say no. Say no to things that you know will not help you. Say no to things that you authentically do not enjoy. And the life philosophy I have here is, if it's not a hell yes, then it is a no, right? What that means is, if you don't see how it's going to add to your life, right, then say no. It's simple. It's that simple. You always saying yes is you trying to please people. Now, after telling everybody yes, one thing you get to realize is you don't really have anything for yourself anymore, right? You're an empty shell of yourself. You feel like the whole world is against you, you are empty. But guess what? It's because you'll be giving out your energy all along, right? Anything that happens, you say yes. The request for your attention, you say yes. You want to come and borrow money from me, they say yes. In the very end, it's apart from the fact that it's disrespectful to yourself, right? It tells the other person that you are their lapdog. It sends the signal of you're insecure, you're desperate, you need people's validation. This is why I would even put number 6 as validation. So you see here, there's a problem with men today, and men today are very, very weak, right? Everybody knows that. We have the weakest generation in the entire history of men, right? Everybody knows that. But now, this is the problem, and this is why I think ultimately we are being weak, right? And we keep getting weaker by the day. Is that before a boy to transition into a man, whether it be the psychology or be the physique, right? The psyche, because these days you can go to the gym and pump your muscles. For you to have that mentality of a man, you have to pass through a culture, you have to pass through a tradition. You need that right of way to become a man. But guess what happens these days? They've removed this. So what is happening is that need for compliments that a boy craves, that need for attention a baby boy wants, is the same thing that men today, quote unquote, older babies are still doing. So if you're a person who's always craving validation, where you want attention, you want people to validate you, you want people to praise you, my bro, you need to grow the fuck up, right? Because trust me, it spells insecurity. It spells like you don't even know what the fuck you are doing, right? And people don't respect you for it. If you're craving validation, I have a story that made me realize how deep this validation thing was. So recently, I'm currently doing this IM with my swim coach. So one day I show up at the pool, I'm the first at the pool. About 10 minutes later, these two boys walk in, age 6 and age 9. I could tell from their size, right? They walk into the pool with their father. They're swimming, yeah. About 20 minutes after, a swim coach comes into the pool arena. Now the boy who is 6 is screaming, coach, 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 have I gotten faster? Now mind you, the coach just walked into the arena, did not see that boy swim. And the coach said, yes, you are now fast. And I looked at the coach. The coach looked at me and instantly, we had this unspoken communication that, bro, you didn't have to lie to him. And his face told me, bro, what the fuck do you want me to do? And it kind of made me realize that, listen how happy that boy was, simply because of what his coach said, completely blew my mind. And that is what most men are struggling with today. So what should you do is, bro, if you don't want to see, but what you do is grow up, work as hard as possible. The harder you work, apparently, people give you validation when you don't even need it, right? Now, a clear context is, if you watch my vlogs, you see me boxing. People off camera tell me how good I am at boxing, but I myself, I know that I'm nowhere as good as I want to be. So I'm judging my boxing based on what I know for myself, right? I still take corrections till this day, but people are telling me how fast I am, how good I am. I'm like, that shit is not what I'm after. Because, bro, yeah, it's the same thing you see when you're working on something, on a project, right? And people are complimenting you for a project. Again, if you work hard and play your part, people will compliment you, but that's not why you are doing it. And this is how you know. How you know is, deep down, the work never feels good enough, right? Deep down, you know what is missing from the project, but people feel like you're already good, so you should take your accolade and stop. Trust me, the moment you stop because of your accolade, because of your praise, that is the moment you begin to lose yourself as a man. So the 7th thing I would say when it comes to sneaky habits, let me speak about, okay, let's say porn. Let's look at corn, because I heard that word is banned, corn, right? So let's look at how corn starts. And I'll tell you how corn is even tied to poor sleep, because poor sleep gives you stress, a lot of stress, right? So corn, what happens is one day you hear about corn, right? This is my story. I was about to get into high school, age 9, right? We get into high school like Nigeria pretty early, right? But it's 10-9. So I go into my uncle's room, under the book I see this magazine, right? And for some reasons I'm aroused, right? I don't know why I'm aroused, but something tells me that I should not be looking at this magazine, right? But this magazine was still like drawing up to me and everything, right? Now, turns out that all of a sudden, I dropped the book, right? That was my first experience with corn, right? It was a magazine, right? I kept on going back to that book because I couldn't figure out what the fuck was happening in me every time I checked out that book, right? And before you know it, my first encounter was 10 years old. Long story short, fast forward now is now that I've broken the cycle. For other guys, I don't know how your story is going to be, but this is probably going to be. You get introduced to it, you watch it. To you, it's harmless. You shake it off, you roll the dice, it's still harmless, right? Before you know it, you see yourself no longer valuing women around you anymore. The women you see around you, they feel boring, they feel normal. They feel like even if you have chance to have like the real sex, you're like, fuck, she's not as good as that babe in the video. And before you know it, you feel like it's not worth approaching, what do they call it? It's not worth getting rejections. It's not worth putting yourself out there. It's not worth risking yourself. It's not worth, and before you know it, you begin to damage, because every time you watch this video, you begin to slowly chip away your self-esteem. Every single time you seek validation, you chip off your self-esteem, right? Your self-esteem completely, it still reduces over and over again, right? Now, so when it comes to con, I'll tell you to please cut it off completely, right? You think you're winning, and that's the point about sneaky habits. To you, they feel harmless now, until take it 5 years, 6 years, 7 years down the line, where con has made you enter some fetishes, has made you have some fetish that the average woman can't fulfill, right? And guess what? When you become successful, all these fetishes begin to look like a burden to you. They begin to distract your mind, right? When you're walking, you get to realize that you can't even focus anymore. You can't even approach a woman, have a conversation with her without sounding like a complete fool, basically, right? So, another thing I'll tell you is that it should be that it sounds interesting at first, but it's very difficult. Is what I'll say. The news, right? The news, drama, trends. You see, let's be honest, right? These things always point out to something. They point out to what is happening outside. What is happening outside. I'm here to tell you that, bro, whatever is happening on the news is really not your business, right? Yes, you might lie to yourself and say, oh, I need to be aware of everything happening in my environment. Bro, that's not the truth. Like, here's the harsh truth. Half the things you see on the news are really not your business. If you live in the UK, what's your business with what's going on in Africa if you can't help it? What's your business? Right? If some celebrity has some drama, what the fuck is your business? Recently, there were stories about, and again, what even makes this drama worse is nobody really wants to think when they see a drama. Everybody wants to hop on a bandwagon. A typical example is David Goggins, somebody who has helped millions of men all over the world. All of a sudden, his daughter comes out and calls him a deadbeat. Nobody wants to hear David Goggins' side of the story. Everyone is with their pitchfork trying to judge him, trying to throw him down, telling him that yes, you're a fucking deadbeat dad. Fuck you, nigga. And it's like, bro, this is somebody who has helped loads of men, millions of men. He has motivated loads of men. So I'm telling you that for somebody who is always looking for trends, what's happening in the news, what drama is out there, bro, you've missed your life. Instead, focus on what is happening in your own life. Here's the kicker. If anything, right, precisely the news, if anything is going to affect you in this life, guess what? The people in your life will let you know. There's a story of how one day I was working, right, and I heard this very loud sound. Boom. The sound kind of like felt very deep, but I was like, okay, no problem. I went back to work. My phone is usually I was afraid when I was still like heavily in tech. I was new to tech. Tried to focus. I put my phone in the other room. So after like evening time, like after like 4 or 5 hours, I went to my phone. I saw about 30 missed calls. And then when I reached out to them, when I opened my WhatsApp, I got to realize that was a tanker explosion that happened not too far from where I was, right? So trust me, even every single thing that comes up in the news, I get to know from other people. What that means is I don't have to waste my attention. And as a man, the most important thing you have is your attention, is your energy, right? Your most important thing is not your money, because trust me, you can waste your money, you can get it back. Your most important thing is not your time, it's your attention. That is why the moment somebody has a fraction of your attention, trust me, your time flies out through the window. Number 9, I'll say is a cluttered environment. Now, one of the best advice I received when I started self-improvement was clean your room by Jordan Peterson. So when you say clean your room, now I used to clean my room once a week, right? Until I realized something, one trick one day that I kept on asking myself, apart from the ground, why the fuck does my room keep getting disorganized every week? Then it turns out that it gets disorganized in bits, bit by bit. What that means is I probably wear a cloth today and I dump it somewhere randomly. Next thing, before you know it, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Sorry, then even then Sunday again. I'm like, okay. What that means is the problem is not really the fact that it is dirty right now. It's the fact that I am constantly in bits, scattering my room almost every day. Now, every Saturday, I have to clear up the space. Then that dawned on me that, hold on. Instead of cluttering up my room, why don't I arrange them immediately? What that means is, when I take off my clothes, I ask myself, where is this cloth going to? Same thing with my office, same thing with my desk. When I take out a paper, right, where is this paper supposed to be? Now, to be very, very frank, the only time I kind of like put things around is when I'm stressed. When I'm stressed. And that is why everything you do as a man, right, when you're stressed, is when you pick up bad habits. When you're stressed is when you begin to have what? A lot of addictions. When you are stressed, you see yourself, you can't work out anymore. You can't learn the good habits you're trying to form, you can't form them anymore because you're stressed. So brother, if you have a cluttered environment, guess what happens? Guess what else you have? You have a cluttered mind. So learn to clear your entire environment. Now, 10, I'll say as the sneaky habits, I'll say, what the fuck is this? Yeah, no time alone. So when you never spend any time alone, guess what happens? You never have time to self-reflect. You never have time to improve your life. You never have time to question yourself. Because recently I was on a podcast and then he asked me, how do I get rid of bad habits? I said, for personally, right, either somebody tells me it's a bad habit and I think about it, or I self-reflect, right, and figure out, okay, you know what, the things I've regretted in the last few periods, how did I regret it? Why did I regret it? And I begin to ask myself questions. And trust me, one of the best gifts you have is being alone. Because it gives you time to self-reflect. It gives you time to ask yourself deep questions, right? Like, where am I heading to in life? It allows you to break your bad habits. It's like, okay, you need to ask yourself questions, self-reflect. And trust me, self-reflecting is a thing that men do. So every single habit here, if you get rid of them, you can then begin to step into that man psychology. Then you can begin to feel like, yes, you are the man in this space, right? So whenever you don't spend any time alone, I mean, without distractions, without stimulation, trust me, you can barely think about your goals. Again, this gives you time to reflect on your goals, your dreams, your ambition. This is where the real self-improvement starts. You see, this is an S-tier self-improvement, spending some time alone, right? It could be maybe what, an hour a week, maybe 30 minutes a day, right? Trust me, one thing that's changed, one habit that I know that I did that changed my life was going for walks without earphones. Trust me, that's always been a game changer. It will help you relieve stress. It's a good source of cardio, helps you to burn fat. You get ideas when you walk, right? You feel alive, right? Body movement. So, brother. So, other habits I can say is maybe extra, always sitting down, or I'll say what? Negative self-talk. Now, one thing I've realized after talking to guys, after coaching them, is I figured that a lot of your problems come from your negative self-talk, right? And I know this because I was once there at some point where I tell myself, I don't deserve this. And if I kind of resonate, I wonder, where was all this negative talk coming from? From childhood. That's why you're probably fucked in your life, right? If you keep having negative self-talk, you never see yourself doing good things, then bro, you would always stay stuck. You will always be there if you never ever see yourself doing things good. right? If you're always telling yourself it's things like, oh, I know myself, I'm about to fuck shit up, then trust me, you will fuck shit up, right? And another thing, and again, this thing sounds sweet, it sounds interesting because it feeds into your what? Into your ego. Or saying, yes, I know that I'm this kind of person, I can't talk to girls, right? Girls always reject me, bro. Girls reject everybody. That's the harsh truth. There's not a single soul girls don't reject. Girls could reject you because you're not attractive. Girls could actually reject you because you are too attractive, which is an actual thing. This is why I tell you, I'll make a video very soon. This is why you should always stay to the end, called the 7 straight system, right? I got it from First Man, but my own version was called Well-Rounded Man. But he calls it on 7 straight system where you look good, because anything beyond the 7 in your looks, girls begin to what? Reject you without even giving you a chance. Other bad habits you have is what? Always staying indoors. It's a bad habit, right? You need to go out there, get some sunlight, get some vitamin D, meet people, right? Because you really cannot socialize if you're always indoors, right? Get your blood moving, burn calories, go to the gym, leave your house, and bro, if you can actually break all of these habits, because habits are very easy to form, right? Bad habits are very easy to form until they are very difficult to break. All these habits I mentioned here are things that you are already enjoying, but if you keep them in your life till this very moment, or a few years down the line, you're going to regret it. If you like any of the ideas that you heard in this video, I would like you to please share this video with a friend who you know will find it very helpful. Talk to you soon, and bye for now, brother.